Welcome to 100 Yards of Football. If you like the video today, please come in and share it. We'll surely appreciate it here on 100 Yards of Football. I want to give very good, loving, and thanks to my producer, Mr. Jeremiah Long, for making it happen today. And I'm your host, Vincent Turner. One more time, if you like the video, please come in and share it. We are 100 Yards of Football. Today's video, we're going to highlight one of the greatest football players that played in the Southern California football history, Ron Yary, offensive tackle, NFL legend with the Minnesota Vikings. Mr. Yary, when you talk about the offensive tackle position and playing it at a high level, this gentleman right here done it in the 60s. He started with the USC Trojans. And I go back, if you always listen and watch all our videos, I did some videos on O.J. Simpson, and I always bring up that special run in 1967 when O.J. Simpson was a junior, and the game was on ABC TV. I was 7 years old watching the game in my parents' house, growing up in my childhood in Memphis, Tennessee, and I saw O.J. make that great run, that 64-yard run where USC number 2 was going against number 1 UCLA, and UCLA had Gary Beeman. And if you go back and watch that run, you see what Mr. Simpson cut into the hole, then he stutter step, and then he took that thing 64 yards. Well, the gentleman that opened that hole is the gentleman you're looking on the screen right there, Mr. Ron Yary. He was the first pick in the 1968 NFL draft as an offensive tackle. But what he did before he got to the National Football League was just unbelievable at USC. He was a junior college transfer. And reading his story last night, he played at a time and for a school that had a lot of great football players. And think about what Mr. Yary, what he did when he was at USC. He was the first Atlan Trophy winner, which goes to the best lineman in the country in 1967 for USC. He was a Playboy preseason All-American first team. He was a 3-time conference all-time player at the time, which was the Pac-6, I believe. Then he was voted to the USC Athletic Hall of Fame. As I mentioned, number 1 overall pick in the 1968 NFL draft as an offensive tackle. Pro Football Hall of Famer, voted in 2001. Then you're looking at his career with the Minnesota Vikings. First team All-Pro 6 straight years. 7-time Pro Bowler from 1971 and 1977. Voted one of the 50 greatest Minnesota Vikings. Champion, national champion with USC in 1967 and Rose Bowl champion in 1967 with USC. Then you're looking at the skill set, the intensity as an offensive tackle, A+, the leadership, A+, the reckless abandon playing offensive tackle, A+, the pull and trap ability as offensive tackle, A+, anchor, A+, lateral range as offensive tackle, A+. Man. The use of hands, A+. And when I mean the use of hands, he had a heavy punch where he punched in place and engaged as offensive tackle. And very, very good in pass blocking, A+. Everything Mr. Ron Yary touched when he was in college and with the Minnesota Vikings, it turned to gold. Granted, when he played his professional career with the Minnesota Vikings, he played in 4 Super Bowls. The Vikings came out all losers in that game. But one thing about Ron Yary, he was a very, very special player and very proud. And he represented USC in all those games at a high level. And reading his story last night, the one thing I take away from Mr. Ron Yary, and I want the University of Southern California fan base and nation to hear this. He stated in a paragraph that the greatest joy he really enjoyed in playing football at USC is that being on that field every Saturday at the LA Memorial Coliseum, being in the center of the field, he was the most comfortable guy in the world. And playing on that 1967 USC team that won the national championship that had Earl McCullough, Steve Sauge, Jimmy Gunn, Mike Battle, and Adrian Young. He said that was the best time ever in his life. And he was proud to be a mighty USC Trojan. It brings back goosebumps because me being a little 7-year-old out of Memphis, Tennessee, growing up in the South, I enjoyed watching all the USC football teams from the 60s and 70s and 80s. They had it going on in Hollywood, brother. California, Yary, the city of angels, John Wayne, Marilyn Monroe, Rock Hudson, California, Yary. The mighty USC Trojans was the college football program. And this gentleman right here, Ron Yary, was one of the greatest players that ever came through that program as an offensive tackle. You know you got to be good. You know you got to be a bad man like Leroy Brown, the baddest man on the south side of Chicago. When you go number 1 overall in the 1968 NFL draft. If you like the video today, please come in and share it. It's been an honor. It's been a pleasure to talk about this legend, Mr. Ron Yary, offensive tackle, University of Southern California, by way of the Minnesota Vikings. Thank you to my producer this morning, Mr. Jeremiah Long. Thank you again, man. And to our people, our fans, our nation who follow us in 100 Yards Football, I want to give special thanks. Dun, 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 dun. Da 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 da. The mighty USC Trojans, California, Yary, the city of Compton, South Central, San Fernando. Y'all be blessed here on 100 Yards of Football. Yes, sir, I'm finished. Okay, no problem.